תו והפך אותו לחברה בינלאומית. לפני כשנתיים זו הייתה השנה הראשונה שהיו בתו יותר חברים מחוץ לארצות הברית מאשר בארצות הברית, והחברה ממשיכה וצומחת. מה שהצלחנו להוכיח שמודל תו עובד בכל הארצות, בתרבות עסקית שונה, בשפה שונה, השיטה עובדת. וג'ייסון רוצה היום להעביר לנו הרצאה שחלקכם שמעתם חלק מהמודיולים שלה, אבל ביקשתם שנעשה את זה עוד פעם, שהיא מסתמכת על 25 שנות הפעילות הראשונה של תו, סיפורים שאספנו מחברים של תו, כמו סיפור שעוסקים אנשים כמו יעל ששיתפה לנו היום. לקחנו את הסיפורים שחברי תו שיתפו אותנו ובנינו מצגת של ג'ייסון, שהוא דובר ידוע ומפורסם, יעביר לנו אותה. ג'ייסון זיקרמן, פליז.
Hello, everybody. I usually don't need a microphone, but I'll put it on. What's that?
There is noise sometimes outside.
Okay.
I will put the presentation introduce
That? Yeah. Okay. So they put a camera here, but the joke's on you because I'm going to walk up and back. I don't know how to stand still. How are you doing? Everybody well? Shalom.
Shalom.
It is fantastic to be here. Fantastic. It's now my fourth time, and as I say, it's each time's the best time. I didn't understand a word that you said earlier. There you are. But it looked great. It looked great. You know, I know how to read Hebrew, but only with vowels. So I'm lost here. But I did learn, my grandfather, but my parents used to speak Yiddish. And mostly, so we didn't understand what they were talking about. So I used to try really hard to learn a little bit of Yiddish so I could know what they were talking about. But my grandfather used to give me my allowance every week. He used to come to the house on Sundays. We'd have dinner as a family, and he'd give me my allowance. And when he'd come and give me my allowance, he'd put the $2 out, and he'd hold it very tight, like I couldn't take it. And then he'd always say to me, this is Yiddish, I believe. He says, "Schwer zu machen a Leben." And he made sure that I understood. It's hard to make a living. So, that brings me to my presentation. We're going to talk a little bit about businesses. Because it's hard to make a living. It's hard to run a company. And those of us who have been doing it understand that we make a lot of mistakes along the way, don't we? Right? So what I want to share with you folks today, and some of you folks were at my presentation a couple of years ago, and I was asked, do it again because it's valuable. They want to hear it again, so I'm gonna do that. There's a few new things here, I think. But one of the things that we really try to do is share information from business owner to business owner, to learn from each other, to take advantage of each other's wisdom, to learn from each other's mistakes, and to be able to be more successful because of that. So what we've done is we put together a book, and if any of you would like the book, I didn't bring them out, but I will. If you give me a card, I'll make sure I sign a little note and send you a copy if you find it to be of any value to you. So I'm going to share with you some of the principles that I found to be absolutely powerful. And as I talk around the world speaking to business owners, these have resonated and they're timeless. They genuinely are. And I feel that if we knew them then, when we started, we would have saved ourselves a whole lot of pain and heartache and angst. So I'm going to share a few with them if that's okay. So I'm going to ask you to participate from time to time. I'm going to ask you questions. If you don't respond, I'll just make sure I'll pull on you. Okay? You good with that? So I'm going to start with a few of them. The first one is the red rose. And I asked everybody in the room, what is your red rose? And what I mean by that is, what is the thing that you view is your differentiator, the thing that you do, your signature element that makes you memorable? that people will think about you first before they think about somebody else. Have you thought about that? So let's talk a little bit about that. So I'll give you a little story that really resonates well. So in the United States, in the state of Florida, it's a very humid area. And in this humid environment, they have these bugs, and they're called palmetto bugs. Anyone know what a palmetto bug is? They're like really large cockroaches, and they're ugly as hell. Okay? And when you see them, it really creeps you out. Okay? So this woman had this palmetto bugs in her house, and she says, I gotta get rid of them. So she calls the exterminator. Looks it up, finds an exterminator. Price was good. They said, come on out. The exterminator came, did the spraying, and the bugs are gone. Perfect. That's what an exterminator does, right? You have bugs, you don't have bugs, they did a good job. Well, not that long after that, these damn palmetto bugs came back. And she's like, oh my gosh, not again. So she forgets who she called. Didn't matter. Just gonna get another exterminator, because exterminator's an exterminator. You kill him, you don't kill him, right? So she found another exterminator. They came, did a good job, just like the first person. Fair price, on time, left. But this time, when she went back to her kitchen after the exterminator left, there was a handwritten note on her counter with a red rose. And it said, Madam, I am so sorry that we had to meet under these conditions. And I really hope you do not need my services anytime soon. But should you, I promise to be back and treat it very professionally and take care of your problems right away. So, everyone raise your hand if you received a handwritten note from your exterminator, please. You did you? No, right? But what? Every time. What exterminator doesn't do that? Right? But just think about that for a moment. A handwritten note and a red rose from an exterminator. Do you think there's a chance, even if she wanted to forget about this individual, that she would not remember this person? So when you think about that, the key that we have to ask all of ourselves as business owners, as aspiring business owners, even as people who run and lead teams, what is your red rose? What makes you memorable? Does anyone here have a red rose? Anybody want to share their red rose? Please. Amit?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the business, we have a fintech business. We transfer and convert funds around the world in a verifiable manner. We're the only one in the world that does it in this manner.
Yeah.
You can actually verify what we do. So every company sends out gifts and does things and sends to the CEOs and so on. We decided that the people who are really taking care of us are the secretaries. So we send out every holiday, we send to the secretaries a very special gift to them and not to all top management. And we're never forgotten.
Yeah, very good. You know, it's interesting you say that. My parents used to work in my father was a teacher, my mother was a teacher, and then my father became like a principal and had to move in administration. And my father used to say, always, as soon as you get into the school, make friends with the custodian, the janitor. They're the ones that get things done. So it's very, very smart. So I want everyone to think about this now. Think about your own business, your own organization, and what could be your red rose. Now, as you sit there, you're probably saying, I don't know, it's very hard to do it. So let's talk about how we do it. First and foremost, know your competitors. Know your industry. Know what they do well, know what they don't do well, know what kind of things that are typically issues and problems within your industry. Know where the shortfalls are, and what can you do to stand out amongst them. Now, if you don't know your competitors, and some of us don't, you haven't spent the time to really research it and all that, but you need to. Okay, and what I'd like you to think about doing is, how do you find that information out? Well, first off, call up your competitor. Say you're a potential customer and you'd like to have some references. Then call their references. and ask them, what do you like about them? Where do they fall short? What are you doing? And then you can shape your business to stand out a little bit differently. Does that make sense? There's also something called a mystery shopper. Do you guys know what that is, a mystery shopper? Yeah. It's when you pretend to be a customer and you just kind of go through the process and take on that experience. It will be amazing what you find out. Absolutely amazing. And it's a simple thing. So what I'd like you to all do is think about taking this concept, this idea, bringing it back to your team, bringing it back to your employees, and let them say, hey, what is our red rose? How do we make sure that we are memorable, we are distinguishable? I promise you that you're going to find that this is a very good conversation amongst your team. And your team is going to feel that they weighed in. And you'll often hear me say weigh in, because you often hear, can I get you a buy-in, right? Buy-in is very different than weighing in. Don't you agree? Right? When you weigh in, you're part of that solution. When you buy in, you're doing it because your boss told you to, in many cases. So bring it back to your team and ask them. Here's a gentleman. Oops. He's out of St. Louis, Missouri. His name is Tim Allman. And Tim writes home loans. Okay? Now, I don't know exactly how home loans work here in Israel, but back where in the States, it's very commoditized, right? You either fit this exact formula, you fill out the application, you get the money, or you don't get the money. It's not very personal. And so Tim was trying to figure out how the heck is he going to differentiate himself from all the same people, because it's all about the same rates, price, scores, whatever it might be. Tim decided to take his business and bring it to the individual's home. So instead of just sitting there, getting on the application, very impersonal, he'd come to your home, knock on the door, sit at the kitchen table, meet the kids, pet the dog, and build a relationship. Now it was a very more intimate relationship. Now where in the States, you're able to see who's writing the loans and who's not. Within 9 months' time, Tim was passing all of the other writers of home loans. It was his signature element. He was known to be the one who actually cares. And all he did was the same exact process, but sat at your kitchen table. That was his red rose. There was a movie a long time ago, an American movie. Do you remember it, called City Slickers? Do you know City Slickers, right? Okay. You might recognize it when I show you. And there was an old cowboy. His name was Curly. Or Curly, right? Curly was one of the best business coaches there were. I'll show you.
In Hebrew, it's called
Exactly. Thank you, Ani. The words escaped me for a moment. Yeah. Here's Curly.
You know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This. Your finger? One thing. Just one thing. You stick to that and everything else can.
It's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
That's what you gotta figure out. That's what all of us have to figure out. What is our one thing? It's not going to be that hard for you to do it. Your team is going to really enjoy it. But I promise you, if you do it and you're more memorable, it's going to make a difference. It's a timeless principle, but so many of us don't have it, right? Raise your hand if you don't have it right now. It's okay if you don't. You don't have to participate. Now I know there's not a whole group of liars here, okay? Because I've been in a lot of these rooms in my life, and I know who has and who doesn't. But it's a very smart thing to do, folks. And I promise you it'll make a difference for you, okay? The second thing I want to share with you is something called discovering your why. Why? Why do you do what you do? Could you imagine if you had your business that you were able to have customers who were indifferent about the cost, the quality, and the convenience? Imagine that. That'd be pretty good, right? It's called like kind of utopia, right? Who consistently and repeatedly buy from you. Loyalty, right? They want to do business with you. They want to do business with your company, your brand, because they know what it means. And there are individuals who, without prompting, voluntarily talk about you and your products and your services. And they spread the word, whoever they can talk to is where it's relevant, to tell you how wonderful you and your company are, right? Do I look better in the dark? No. I'm only kidding. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. I've been in much worse situations, I tell you. Can you imagine that? Well, first of all, hopefully you can, because that is what we would call a raving fan, right? A raving fan. When you have a raving fan, you do those things. Price is as important, slightly inconvenient is important. I choose to do business with that person or that company because they make me feel good or whatever it might be, right? Now the question is, how do you know? How do you actually know who your raving fans are? How do you know, a little bit uncomfortable for the moment, how do you know who's not a raving fan? Who might not really like your company? Those folks are dangerous. Well, the good answer, I should say, tell you, is that it's very easy to find this out. It's super easy to find this out. Who in the room here knows the Net Promoter Score? Okay? Good. You should look it up. It's a very valuable system. And Fred Reichel from Bain & Company, he's the one that created it. And the way you find out who your raving fans are is you ask one very simple question. On a scale of 0 to 10, what is the likelihood that you would recommend me or my service or my company to a friend or colleague? Right? How many of you asked that question? Okay, good. Many don't. Do you know why many people don't ask that question? Assuming they know the question to begin with? Yes. Scared of the answer. It's a scary answer, right? But you need to. You need to ask that question because it's going to change your world. And you're going to know how to adapt and fix things, and you're going to know who you can lean on to promote your company. So now the way this works, when you ask that question, if someone gives you a 9 or a 10, they're a promoter, they're a raving fan. These are your evangelists. These people are worth gold. If they tell you that they're a 7 or an 8, they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to help you. They're just kind of vanilla, right? The scary part is if they tell you they're 0 to 6. Because these are what we call detractors. Okay? That means in the right situation, the right opportunity, they're going to talk something negative about your organization. You have a question?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I agree with the 0 to 6, obviously, but I mean, I'm sure you filled up a lot of questions like that. If you answer 9 or 10, when it's easier on paper, then actually do something about it. So yeah, you'll ask me about your business, I'll put a 9 or a 10 because I'm happy. Does it mean that I'm actually going to do something about it? Do I really going to promote your business?
Well, I can't say what you would do. I'm just saying that from the universe of the Net Promoter Score, if I tell you that I'm a 9 or a 10 about your business and your company, that I'm going to refer you, if I answer to this question, it means that you probably will be telling people something about that. Statistically, you're going to be asking people about it. I mean, so I don't mean you're going to be out there, carrying my flag, but yeah, I mean, that's the way the process works. Maybe I don't understand what you're asking me.
I think there's a difference between asking, our clients, our customers, than actually relying on them. I mean, if you would ask me personally, I think a lot of times you'll get the answer not by questionnaires, but building a relationship with your client, and you will feel there are promoters or
Yeah,
directors.
I'm not saying you don't, but I think when people have lots of customers and all that, it's hard to have a relationship with all customers and all that, about that. So it all depends on the type of business. You're probably in a very high-touch business, all right? You are, okay. And I think when you're in one of those industries, you have a better sense about it. But sometimes people say things to you that don't necessarily, oh, you're wonderful, but they really are in this area, and you want to make sure that they are there. So it's a wise question to ask. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to chip in, because just from the fact of also many clients that when a client really believes, or let's say if I really believe in a product or it really helped somebody, like you're doing, aside from making money, you're actually helping the person, then if you feel that, you'll tell people. It might be your friends, it might be whoever you care about, you'll tell. It's like if you have a cream lotion and you see it,
No doubt about it.
take something, you want to tell people about it, and that becomes a promoter.
I do it all the time, Now, the leading individual these days on how to create raving fans is Simon Sinek. You folks are familiar with Simon Sinek? Okay? Fantastic. I mean, it's a very good book, but if you haven't read the book, if you just go to YouTube and you type in start with why, you're gonna find this 15-minute video that is very solid, and it'll kind of give you the whole gist of it in a relatively short amount of time, and it's fantastic. Now, there's the father of modern day philosophy. His name is Rene Descartes. You may know the name, you may not know the name, but you will know what he's famous for saying. You know, and the concept is what he did say is, or the I think, therefore I am. Right? Everyone heard that statement before? I think, therefore I am. But modern day neuroscience says they don't believe that anymore. Because the statement, I think, therefore I am, means we are thinking people who feel. But in reality, as we study it more and more and more, we are actually feeling people who think. How many of us buy emotionally? Everyone should have their hand up, because there's very few of us who don't. We buy emotion, there's a purpose, there's a reason behind that. And we justify it intellectually. It doesn't go the other way. And so where this really comes together, where this connects, is people want to understand why you do what you do. Not what, not how, but where they really want to understand how you really move the needle in your business is your why. There's a company, I think this is really cool, and I'm going to help you figure out your why in a little bit. But here's a statement up here that says, evolving the way the world moves. It's a company slogan. Now, does anyone know what it is? It's not that big here, actually, I found out, but anyone know it? Okay, it's Uber. Uber's not real here. You guys use Get over here, right? And all that. I took it Get, and they dropped me off 4 blocks away. This service didn't work out so well for me. I'm trying to read the signs, and again, no vowels. What's that? Yeah, I did. I had to do that exactly. Yeah. But anyway, evolving the way the world moves. Now, what they really want to do is they want to change the convenience of the world. Now, maybe not here, but there's Uber Eats. Which is they deliver food. Now there's the Uber service, there's Uber bikes. They just want to make the world convenient. It's a big why. They're trying to make things really super easy. Here's another one, I really like it. We can improve people's lives through business. Anyone know that company? What's that?
Amazon?
No. Tom's. You guys know Tom's?
Yeah.
It's a shoemaker, okay? And what's beautiful about it, and I love social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship is one of my biggest favorite things these days, right? And what they do is, every time they sell a pair of shoes, they donate a pair of shoes. Right? Now that's a pretty big why. They're giving it to the needy, to the poor, whatever it might be. I mean, when I go out and I go shopping, I have a choice. I'm like, all right, I'm buying the kids' shoes. I'm gonna put shoes on someone else's kids. That's a big why for me. I mean, it's a huge why. There's another company, now my new favorite company is called Bombas Socks. I don't know if you know those either. And for every pair of socks that you buy, they donate socks. And the most needed, requested item that a homeless person needs are socks. So there's a big why. So what is your why? How can you help people become emotionally attached to what you're doing? That's part of a very important thing. Now you're probably sitting here saying, well, I don't have this huge why. You know, I don't have this world shattering. I'm not saving the world or anything like that. That's okay. It really is. But there is a story behind it. You know, what I know from talking to thousands of business owners around the world is that business owners love their company. They may love their customers. They love the service they provide. The employees love what they're doing. The way they're making people feel, whatever it is. You need to capture that. You need to capture that why and be able to share that with people so they can become emotionally attached to what you're doing. Does this resonate with you folks?
Yep.
Okay, it's everyone talks about what and how. Everybody does. But that's not what moves people. There was a dry cleaner around the house, the corner from where I grew up. And they were terrible. And my father would go there no matter what. I'm like, Dad, they're terrible. They forget stuff, they lose stuff, whatever it is. And his whole reason for doing it is because he had pictures of their kids in Korea. And they worked really hard, and his whole thing was to send money back to Korea for the family to be well. And my father was moved by that, because he just had a grandchild. And he was like, I'm never going anywhere else. But it's because of the why. Do you see what I'm saying? So how do you figure out your why? Or once you do figure out your why? Well, once you do figure out your why, you need to tell a story. People remember stories. How many of you have a story about your business? And if you have a story about your business, is it any good? And is the story good to the person hearing it? Not necessarily to the person telling it. Nobody cares how much hard I work to build Tab International. Nobody cares about those bad nights in this recession or that recession. But what they do like to hear is how I've changed people's lives, how we made a difference around the world, and how we hear stories like this one we just heard right now. Was that amazing? These are the things that matter. The best storyteller in the world is Pixar Films, right? One of them. It's not because of their technology, it's because they know how to tell a story and make you pull on your heartstrings and make you feel emotionally attached to what you're about to do or feel. So can you with your business. So I want you to think about your story. And then I want you to start asking yourself, how can I convey that? The one thing I will also say before I move on to the next one is that it's a wonderful thing to ask your sales team, or even ask yourselves if you're the business developer. And the simple KPI is, how many people or how many times in this particular day or week did you tell your story? Because sometimes I sit there and I'm in the whirlwind of business, and I realize, I haven't spoken much about, I haven't told anyone new about Tab today. That's a bad day, right? That's not how you're going to grow your business, filing your paper clips and sharpening your pencils, right? You need to be out there telling your story. So figure out your why, put it into a story, and tell it a lot. Big game changer for everyone's organization. The third thing I'd like to talk about is brand. And that brand truly does matter. And I think there's sometimes a misconception about brand. So when we were writing the book, we did a whole bunch of research, and one of the parts of the research we did on the marketing of what would you do differently today if you were redoing your business, now. And the results came back pretty amazing. First of all, brand building was more than 50% more than advertising and PR. Now, I won't put anyone on the spot here, But how many of us thought that advertising and PR was brand building? Me. I mean, I thought that's kind of connected. But I want to challenge all of you to think about brand very, very differently. It's not just advertising and PR campaigns. And there's a reason why 32% compared to 20% exists. Jeff Bezos, someone brought up Amazon just a moment ago. This is a very impressive quote in my opinion. He said, your brand is formed primarily not by what you say about yourself, but what the company does. In other words, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. That is the epitome of brand, is it not? Think about that one. It's not what we say about ourselves, it's about what others say about us. That is completely what brand is, and that's what we're all going for. Are we not? Yeah? So, when people ask me, is there value in a strong brand? It's unquestionably yes. You know, because when you have a strong brand, it does a few very important things. It pre-sells your product or service, right? You already know, it doesn't matter if Apple comes out with something new, we're all on it, aren't we? What's new? It's an Apple thing, whatever it might be. No, he's like, then there was the Apple, the other camp saying, I'll never buy an Apple product, right? I should have picked a different example. I know that. Okay? When you have a strong brand, our customers are willing to pay more. There's a premium to that because it means something, it stands for something. And that's an important thing. And remember, it's about the experience that people are having. Loyalty. When you have a strong brand, people are much more likely to stay with you. Even if something might be new and flashy or whatever it is, because there's a loyalty, because the brand means something. And they're willing to purchase more things from you. And assuming you're not a single company product, that type of thing, that really makes a difference. I use this example, and it may have changed in the last year or so, but the Wall Street Journal published some facts about the cell phone industry. Apple at the time, and again, I think it might have changed, Apple at the time sold 80% of the cell phones on the market. What percentage profit of the industry do you think they're making with? No, they sold 20% of the cell phones on the market, okay? 20% of the cell phones on the market. What percentage of profit do you think they make out of that industry? 92%. With 20% of the sales. Samsung at the time was the other 8%, which means everyone else was losing money. Now, that really is a hell of a brand story, is it not? Really is. Think about brand, think about your own company. Charles Revson, in the factory, we make cosmetics. In the retail stores, department stores, we sell hope. Look what they do though, right? It's not, oh, I make the greatest quality ingredients or this or that. It's how do I feel? How do I make the user excited about it? You know, they don't care about the other stuff, the what, the how. But what is the value that you're bringing? And does your marketing, does your material, do you communicate in the benefits that people are receiving from you? Here's another great one. People don't want to buy a 1/4 inch drill. They want a 1/4 inch hole. Right? What is the end result that they're going to get from what you're doing, your service? I want everyone to think about if you are the customer of your service, your product, is what are they getting from you? Because each of you have a story. Is this making sense to everybody? Can you see the value in changing a little bit of way that we're thinking here? These are timeless principles. The other thing I'd like to share is that your brand is a promise. And McCart Tent, the chairman of Coca-Cola, says, if a brand is a promise, that means a great brand is a promise kept. How many of you have a company that you shop at or anything, that you go there because you know it's consistent. You know that they'll honor it every time. No arguments, no haggling, right? That's the brand. So when you think about your company, what is your promise? And is it really a promise? Is it really something that people can count on absolutely all the time? It's not as easy to say. It's, you know, automatically, oh yeah, but then you think about it, what is my promise? And are we really good at always doing it and always delivering on it? That will make a huge difference. When I heard this one, it really changed the way I think about a lot of things. I'm you guys know the TV show Seinfeld? Yeah. So I'm a big fan of it, and you know, it's one of those things that when I get home and my head is full, I just put on Seinfeld and I kind of chill out to it. So here's a little bit about brand.
I'm sorry, we have no pizzas available at the moment.
I don't understand. I made a reservation. Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservation.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you did. If you did, I'd have a car. So you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold it. And that's really the most important part of the reservation. The hold. Anybody can just take it.
So I challenge you, think about what your brand promise is. Make sure everyone in your organization knows it. And keep it. And make that like just, it can't move, right? It's in stone. Because that's how people build their reputation. That's why they become a raving fan. Let's talk about how we do this though. So first of all, with your brand, start with the value that you're bringing. No more what and how and the details and the specs. Talk about the value. And then once you get people's attention and they're interested, then you can answer all those other questions. But start with the value. Identify that differentiator. Know what makes you different than the others. And here's a really good one. Identify the words that you want to own as an organization. So for example, with the alternative board, the words that we want to own, the words that we really promote is growth, profitability, accountability, safe. These are the things that when members come to our organization, they feel, they know they're going to be able to get, and that's our promise. Make your brand promise and communicate it. And communicate through stories, because people are going to remember that. And make sure that people are talking about it all the time. You're talking about it, your employees are talking about it. And if you're salespeople, here's a great test. Go to your salespeople. Say, tell me the story. And find out if you find it compelling. You know, they may know the technical, the specs, and this and that, the know-how, but see if there's a better story and think about it from a different lens. I promise you might be a little surprised by what you're hearing. And keep your promise, right? And exceed those expectations. It may sound cliche. I'm sure it does. But if you really think about your company, how many of us are doing that? First, do we know what the promise is? And are we exceeding the expectations? This resonate with folks? All right. Culture shock. Let me ask you a question. Raise your hand if you feel that your company, your business has a very definitive culture. So everyone else doesn't, yeah? Okay. So let me tell you one thing, everybody. All of your companies have a very definitive culture. Every single one of them. The difference here is whether that culture was intentional or by accident. But you all have it. It is what it is, right? So the key here now is what kind of culture do you want? See, the fact is that no matter what you're doing in your business, Your people are following. Your people are observing. And the only one who can be responsible for that, really, to set the tone, is the leader. And if you're not exhibiting the right behaviors that you want from the company, then what you have is what you get, is because of what you created. And when you create the culture that you want, everyone rises or sinks to that level of culture. Even if you're like the most detailed person, and you have people in your company that aren't, those low people, detailed people, they'll raise their game. Even if you have a real high energy company, even the more reticent people, they'll start becoming more engaged. But culture matters. And if you want to drive your business forward, think about what you want and how do you want the organization to behave, and I believe that you'll find that business becomes a whole lot more enjoyable. Everybody knows Gandhi, yeah? So I'll tell you a little story, because people remember stories. So Gandhi, there was a mother and a child, and she was upset with her son. And she was going to take him to Gandhi and have Gandhi speak to him. So she waits to speak to Gandhi, and this is back in the day where you could actually go do that. And the mother walks up to Gandhi. They sit down, says, "Thank you, Babu. Thank you for meeting with me." And Gandhi says, "Mother, what can I do for you?" He says, "Father, my son is eating way too much sugar. He doesn't take care of himself. He's not behaving in a healthy way, and we keep telling him, and he simply is not listening. Please, tell my son that he needs to stop doing that." Gandhi sits there and he thinks for a moment. He says, "Mother, please, come back in 2 weeks, and I'll talk to your son." So, "Mother, you don't argue with Gandhi." So she takes her son's hand and she walks away. She's totally perplexed. 2 weeks later, she comes back, just like Gandhi says. And they go walk up to Gandhi, and Gandhi says, "Please, mother, sit down. Thank you, Baba." And Gandhi says to the little boy, he says, "Son, you need to listen to your mother. You're eating too much sugar, and it's not good for you. We want you to eat a healthy meal. You want your mind to be strong. You want your body, you want to be better to your family, better to yourself. Can I have your word? It's the right thing to do." And the little boy says, "Yes, Father, I will." He says, "Thank you." The mother gets up, starts walking away from Gandhi, and turns around and says, "Father, why didn't you say that 2 weeks ago to him?" He says, "Mother, 2 weeks ago, I too was eating a lot of sugar." Lead by example. Set the tone. Think about, what do people see when they follow your lead? And I promise you, again, the organization will change. This is really a good one. This is probably one of the favorite things that people like to talk about from reading the book. It's working below your pay grade. How many of you in this room sometimes feel you're working below your pay grade? Every hand better go up in this room. Every hand, come on. If you're not, and you're being honest about it, that's awesome. Okay? So, the reality is, which of these do we have control over? Time, people, or money? What do we have control over? Time. Right? I mean, you can't control people. You could influence people. You could direct people. You can't control people. Anyone have kids? We know, right? Money, you could try to, but you can't dictate it. None of us would be here. We'd all be swimming in it, right? That wouldn't be a problem. But time, you do have the ability to control. And the reality, as business owners, as business leaders, we very often are not being wise with our time. And the biggest thing that we find, work with thousands of business owners around the world, is that they are working below their pay grade. Give you an example. I was at a board meeting. This is going back a little bit of time. And there was an attorney. There's a few attorneys in this room. I was like, attorney. And we're sitting at a board meeting. And we're talking about, maximizing time and all that. And everybody was saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to do the right work that we need to be doing, high value work." And then like not even 45 minutes later, he says in some casual conversation, yeah, he's gonna go pick up a client at the airport. I'm like, you go, why? I said, well, how long is that gonna take? He said, I don't know, when you look at it, at first we asked about how much, we asked everyone to identify what's their hourly rate. All right, his was at the time $300 an hour, which is probably true for him, okay? And now wait a minute, so you're gonna go pick someone up at the airport, it's gonna be 3 hours, that's a $900 taxi ride, right? When you think about it in that regard. We're like, hey, why don't you send a nice car, they'll even stand there with a sign, with his name on it, he'll feel special, and you could go do the work that you're supposed to be doing instead of that. And he did that. And then he was in the office, and at that, fortunately for him, and fortunately for the story, he closed a really big client. And he made a very significant, because he was working in what we call his platinum activity. But we all fall into the trap of doing things below our pay grade, don't we? Sometimes because we always have, when we started out the business, we were always doing those things, and we just forget to delegate it. Sometimes, if you're like a guy like me, you're a little bit of a control freak and you don't like to let go of things. Sometimes you just don't even think about it. So here's what I'd like everyone to do. First, I want you to build a list of your platinum activities, okay? Your platinum activities. And your platinum activities are the things that you know are the right things for you to do to move your business forward, okay? The things that really are designed that you know that this is the best use of your time. Not $10 an hour work, but hundreds of dollar hour work. And what I'd like you to do is put a piece of paper on your desk or open up a document on your computer and make sure it's easily accessible. And start thinking about the things that you know are the platinum activities, the best use of your time. The things that you're doing that you want to make sure you don't stop doing. The things that you're not doing enough and you should be doing more of. The things that you're not doing and you know you should be doing it. These are your platinum activities. Makes sense, right? Then the next thing that I want you to do is something a little bit different than you might have ever heard before. I want you to create your to-don't list. Not your to-do list. Because everyone has a to-do list, don't we? Our to-do list have a to-do list. But I want you to create your to-don't list. These are the things that genuinely are not bringing value to you. That you think about, if you really thought about, like, why the heck am I doing this? What value am I bringing to myself? Now, I know some of us are small businesses, and we're doing a lot of things that we should be doing. But let's start by looking at it. We could then decide whether or not we need a part-time employee or a $10 an hour employee, whatever it may be, and create that to-don't list. You're going to find that you're going to identify things that this is really not valuable for you. And that somebody else can be and should be doing it. You're going to enjoy your work more. You're going to be making better decisions in the company. But I want you to make that discipline to figure this out. Just do it for a month. Make that commitment. And I promise you it's going to make a difference. Now, the last part of this equation is I want you to identify time in your schedule just for prime time activities or your platinum activities. Okay? So some part of your day that all you're doing is high value work. Now some of you are sitting there saying, there's no way, I don't have the ability to put every day, certain times. I get it, all right? I've been in that same spot before in my life. So start with 1 day a week, if that's the case. Give yourself 1 day a week where some morning, some afternoon, some evening, whatever it is, you block, and all you do is platinum activities. And think about when. Now, everyone's different, you know? I'm a morning person. So I'm energetic, I'm more creative in the morning, and as I tell people, by noon I'm pretty pissed off, right? Not when I'm in Israel, I'm vacating, you know, work like this. But I'm frustrated, and when I know when I'm like that, I'm not good at creating things. I'm not good at writing, I'm not patient. So figure out what your prime time looks like, block it, protect it, and it's gonna make a difference. This is one of the biggest things we help our members think about. What are they doing and why are they doing it? Business by the numbers. How much time do I have? Am I running out? I'll make this one the last one, okay? All right. Business by the numbers. Bethlehem Steel, big company, and they had many plants making steel. And there was one plant that was just underperforming. And they couldn't figure it out. And they tried everything. You know, they decided to hire different people, train new people, bring in new management, fire people. Whatever they did not make a lick of difference. So one day, though, one of the foremen go up to one of the guys on the line and says, "So, how many pallets of steel did you make this shift?" And the gentleman says, 6. He says, 6. Fantastic. He takes a big piece of chalk, and on the floor of the factory, he writes 6 right on the floor. The night shift comes in, and they see this big 6 on the floor. And they say, "What's this?" He says, "Well, the day shift did 6 pallets." He says, "Really?" So the next day, the day shift comes in, the 6 is crossed out, and there's a 7. And you're like, the day shift says, "What is this?" So it's a day shift, the night shift said, "No, they did 7. And the day shift was like, "Game on." That day they did 10, crossed it out in 10. In 1 day's time, by putting out a metric, by putting something that they should strive for, they nearly doubled what the production was. Prior to that, nothing they did made a difference. And my point here is, what are the KPIs for your business? And if you don't know what a KPI is, that's okay. It's a key performance indicator. Okay? These are the numbers that are in your business that tells a story, that lets you know how things are going in your business so you could respond or react. Does it make sense to everybody? Everyone understands what I'm saying, right? Now there's 2 types of KPIs. There's a leading KPI and a lagging KPI. Okay? A lagging KPI, like customers, there's nothing you can do about it, right? At the end of the month, there's no adjustments. Here's how many customers you have. A leading KPI would be a suspect or prospects or leads, because you could make some adaptations to that. You know, do I need different marketing? Do I need a different sales process? Is there something I can do to adjust the way this flows to get more customers? So I want you to think about your own particular business and think about, what are the KPIs for you? What should you be measuring? What should you be looking at? And when you start doing that, you're going to see you're making better decisions, you're managing your team better, and you're going to see a push movement in your metrics. How many of you guys use KPIs in your business currently? Excellent. Now, if you don't, that's okay. I brought out a sheet here. You take it, and they're going to hand it out, or you take it on the way out, which will help you think through what your KPIs for your business should be, because it's not honest. What I really recommend, though, for everyone is, don't go big right away. Start small. Have a few key KPIs. And the most important thing is that the numbers that you're using are right, because bad numbers in, bad decisions later, you're not going to recover from that. All right? Make sense? So, I'm going to wrap it up on that one. If you want to know about exiting your business, I'm happy to do it, because you've been here for a while. So I want to say thank you, everybody, but I'm going to leave you with one quote that I think is really good. And it kind of is the essence of the alternative board. All right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that is the essence of what we do. We help and we learn from each other, we grow together, and we go further than most. Thank you, everybody. It's nice to be with you. Any questions I could do? Oh, yeah.
Yes, אם יש איזה שאלה אחת או שתיים, אז זה הזמן לשאול.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm just interested, throughout the years of TAB, from the process to today, what have you seen as the attrition, and why